Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on Lay Back the Tourismka podcast. And our topic for this week is special education. And our guest for this week is Dr. Chiggy Chiagorom. Dr. Chiggy is a healthcare practitioner and the executive director at Seizure Support Foundation. She's also a special needs advocate. Welcome to the show, Dr. Chiggy.
Thank you, Arinze. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this is like me repeating myself all over again, but this is a question I ask everybody. So is this your first podcast?
No, it's not my first podcast. And I'm sure you
Yeah,
knew
so
that already.
yeah, you have your own podcast. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your own podcast as well?
Uh-huh. Seizure Care Podcast with Dr. Chiggy was something I started in 2021. So it's one of the platforms that we use to spread awareness about seizures, epilepsy, autism, and other neurological issues. So yeah, it's been running for 3 years now. Available on
Oh,
Spotify for podcasters and one other, I think Google, something about Google, but
Google Podcast, yeah.
Google Podcast. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So, but is this your first time as a guest on another podcast then?
No,
Okay.
no, it's not.
So there's no first in between in this podcast then.
No. I'm not a visitor. I'm not a newcomer with media, be it podcast, on radio, television, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, okay, that's fine. All right. But when we say special needs, what do we actually mean by that?
Okay, so special needs. Assuming I'm explaining what it means to a layperson so anybody can understand what I mean. So when an individual or a child is said to have special needs, it means that they need extra support to be able to carry out some tasks that ordinary human beings actually learn by instinct, right? For example, to walk, to talk in terms of intelligence or cognition, sight, visual, and then auditory. So these people need extra support. If it's physical, they probably need physiotherapy to get moving. If it's something cognitive, they need other therapeutic care and support to get ahead. So when an individual has a special needs, it means that what ordinary, I use ordinary in quotes really, because what really is ordinary? So what people who don't have special needs would ordinarily do by themselves and learn by instinct or by listening or by looking or by visualizing or seeing how others do it, and they follow suit. People with special needs don't usually have that ability. They need extra support and help to get them to do that. Now there are different kinds. I explained that earlier in our former conversation.
Yeah.
There are people that have special needs in terms of physical needs, people who use wheelchairs, who use any kind of supports, cane, whatever. Blind, people that have what's the word now? Visual issues, people that have auditory issues, just people that have issues with their physical attributes. Then there are those who have cognitive issues, those who have neurological issues like autism, epilepsy, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome. Yeah, there are also gifted children. Gifted children also have special needs because the normal school curriculum may not be able to cater to their own unique needs, educational needs. And also, there are also people with Tourette's and albinism. They also have special needs. Just to put it mildly, they are just different and need extra help to get ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. But you mentioned different forms of special needs. So, but
Mhm.
what are the four common types? Because I read somewhere that you have like you mentioned physical and rest of them, but I heard someone mentioned to me that there are four common types.
Um, to say that there are four common types of
Like
special needs.
physical, sensory, like that's how according to the article I read that it was grouped into like
Okay, there are different
developmental,
kinds.
behavioral,
Yeah,
yeah.
there are different kinds of categorizations. But the one I will actually try to recall now is the one captured in national policy. That's
Okay.
National Policy for Special Needs in Nigeria. They are categorized into three, actually. You understand? Those who have physical needs, those who have developmental needs or sensory needs. And then uh, there's another word they use for to categorize kids, nomadic kids and kids with special gifts. So there are three categories according to the national policy for special education in Nigeria. So those are the three categories: physical, developmental, and maybe before the show is over, I'll try to Google it because I have it. I have the soft copy. And
Okay.
the other ones who are nomadic children, you have nomads, children that move from one point to the other. They also have special needs, so they are captured in the policy, national special education policy of Nigeria. So elsewhere, I wouldn't know what it entails for them because, of course, they don't have nomads in the West. So
Yeah.
this is what it is with the Nigerian context.
Oh, okay. But when we say special needs, like, how can you know that your child has special needs? Like, are there common signs and symptoms that this child will exhibit, and at what age?
Absolutely. Okay, so here's the thing, Special needs, Let me put this out there. Special needs can come at any time. Like a child could be born, normal, okay, nothing is wrong with a child, but could go through something in, you know, between a certain age and then develop special needs. For example, there was this child that fell from a flight of stairs and from then on started having seizures, lost the sight or something like that. So special needs is not just about being born with it. Yes, there are kids that are born with it and there are telltale signs, right? But it can develop at any time as a teenager, as an adult. I have a friend, the mother developed epilepsy at 50 something years of age, yeah. So special needs can come at any time. However, and it could be maybe based on trauma, based on maybe drug interactions, based on maybe psychological trauma, emotional trauma. It just cuts across. But if a child is born with special needs, okay, let's talk physical. There are things that they call milestones when a child is born at a certain age. I'm talking months now. A child is expected to be able to carry out some physical and cognitive tasks. For example, a child who is about 3 months of age is expected to be able to grab with his or her hands, expected to be able to carry his or her neck, right? Expected to cry out, expected to respond to stimuli like lights or sound. If you make a sound around that child should be able to turn in the direction of the sound. Now, these are milestones that you look out for, even down to being able to crawl at a certain age, being able to walk at a certain age. I'm sure you must have heard some kids, some parents complain that this child is a month and this, and he or she hasn't started walking. Or others will say, my child started walking at 8 months or at 10 months. Those ones are, early developers. So
Mhm.
there are milestones that a child is expected, to complete to show that okay, this child is normal, developing at the right pace. However, there are some kids that either that they delay in getting those milestones, in achieving those milestones, or they don't achieve it at all. For example, let me pick cerebral palsy. A child with born with cerebral palsy will not be able to grab because he or she has issues with the brain that controls major muscles in the child's body. So it's as if the child cannot handle physical things that have to do with using the muscles. For example, even to swallow, some of course are severe, and it's in a spectrum. They cannot walk, they cannot crawl. So when a child gets to 6 months and that child is still lying on the bed, not being able to move, of course you should know that there's an issue. All
Mm.
right. So yeah, so this, in a nutshell, this is how you can actually tell that your child has some issues, and then not being able to respond to stimuli and to external environment. You call the child by the child's name, child doesn't ever respond. You turn on the lights in a dark room, and the child doesn't even respond to the lights, doesn't respond to sound, seems detached from reality. He's not able to play. He's always touchy, you understand, and throws tantrums. So those are the things you can. And then for someone who has epilepsy, of course, the seizures are there. So once a child convulses or seizes, there's a neurological issue somewhere.
Okay. Okay. But how do you now explain to other children that child, because children are very inquisitive, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they
Mm-hmm.
see someone that's different from them, they may start staring or start asking questions or start poking. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you explain to other children that this child actually has special needs? Do you just let them discover as they grow up, like maybe like in their playground or in
No,
class?
no, no. You don't let them discover because they will never understand it and they will interpret it based on the information they have as children. And it's not enough.
Yeah,
They could interpret the person as a monster. So the issue starts with the society, with the parents. I recently had a program on the 24th. I don't know if you saw my posts
yeah,
on that program. I was asked to come talk to kids. I've never had kids as my audience. I was asked to come talk to kids about special needs. So I had to think to myself, what can I use to get their attention, right? Because kids learn by play, right? They
yeah,
learn by being able to identify what you're saying with what they already know.
yeah,
So I knew at the point when I was planning the talk that kids every there's no child that doesn't like superheroes, right?
yeah,
You know, yeah, superpowers, superheroes. So I use that as my anchor. So and I tagged it superpowers of friendship, how to be a superhero for your special needs friend.
yeah,
So, but I had to tell it as a story because by the time I was up to talk, the kids were already tired. They came since 10 a.m. and I was up to talk around 2 a.m., 2 p.m. rather. They came
yeah,
10 a.m. I was up 2 p.m. So they were already restless, tired. So I needed something to hold them back to reality and then get my message across. How do you tell kids that this is a special needs child and needs to be taken care of, right? And needs to be respected and things like that. So
yeah,
I told them the story of two boys, one autistic, the other wasn't autistic, one Igbo, the other one Yoruba. So the one that was Yoruba came to Igbo land. His parents were transferred to Igbo land, and he was autistic. He was different. Kids couldn't understand him. However, this other Igbo guy, Igbo younger boy, always loved superheroes and always, imagine himself a superhero. So he thought of how to help this guy, how to be. He couldn't fly. He didn't have any special powers. So he thought to himself, but I'm a very friendly person. So let me try and be friendly to this guy. And it wasn't easy because when I was an autistic child, it wasn't easy to connecting with him. But after several trials, he did connect. And they together now redefined what hero is, which is HERO. H means to help, E means to be empathetic, R means to be respectful, O means to be open minded. And
yeah.
I used it to form a rhyme, a nursery rhyme for them,
Oh,
right?
nice.
So, yeah, so that's how kids learn. In the beginning when I started, I told them to just chorus their superheroes. Everybody they were just falling over each other. This one said Electra, this one said Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, So they were excited, to imagine themselves superheroes, although they don't have capes and they can't fly and they don't know karate, but they have a way of, expressing their own superpowers by helping someone. And I had to use that story and that nursery rhyme to drive it in. And this is just a one-off thing. So the onus really lies on the parents to ensure that, because parents are worse off. We're even talking about kids. Parents stare, and when they do that, their kids look at them. Parents ask the stupidest questions when they see children with special needs. And of course,
True.
the kids, parents go to advocate for their kids to be, for a child that has special needs that was probably brought into the class of their wards to be removed.
Wow.
So what do you expect from the kids then? So the onus really lies on the parents to change their mindset first, because after my show, it wasn't my show though. I just spoke. Somebody wrote and they forwarded it to me. This is a lady that uses crutches. She says she was so touched by my presentation because growing up, she always wanted friends, but she had no friends because she was using crutches. She couldn't walk. She had to.
Yeah,
So, and she said, and children, what actually touched me was that she said that children are not taught to be nice to children, other children who are different. And that has to change.
yeah,
So it starts with the parents, it starts with the home. And you teach children with stories, with songs, with play, with fun,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's how they understand.
So that's interesting. How you actually created that rhyme with the hero. Now I'm
Yeah.
going down to mention the parents because you just mentioned that the parents ask the stupidest questions. Okay,
Yeah.
so in Africa, I'm in the West, people actually talk about disabilities and all. But I notice in Africa, people rarely talk about parenting kids with special
Nah,
needs at
they
all.
don't talk about.
Why?
No, they
Why
don't.
do you think there's that stigma to actually talk about things that are actually bothering their children, even when they have special needs?
Well, it still boils down to the mindset thingy. Whenever anything has to do with the brain or any form of disability, we're even talking about Africa. Did you know that in China, I don't even know if they still practice that thing, but they someone told me that if they notice a child has any form of disability or something like that, that child is not allowed to be raised in the society, and then they are put in a different place and given menial work to do or something, that they're not just included into society. So every society has their own peculiarities. However, in Africa, they don't talk about it, maybe because of cultural issues.
Yeah.
Because if anything has to do with the brain, the person is written off. Like they feel like it's a family, like um, family evil. Nobody wants to
Yeah,
associate
yeah,
with
yeah.
it. For example,
That's
if people go to make inquiries for marriage,
yeah,
epilepsy is an issue. They
yes,
will ask, "Paul and Andofa,
yeah.
do they have epilepsy in there?" So you can imagine.
Yeah, but
Okay,
but
yeah, go
the
ahead.
one I remember growing up is when you have children with Down syndrome and the rest of them, they start telling you
Mm,
all the parents, yeah, they may have something. Like they start saying some
exactly,
like viral things about it.
exactly,
So now you start wondering,
exactly.
like, but if you're a scientist, you know that these are natural occurrences that can actually happen due to some
The, the
problems, like
thing
medical.
about
But
Down
yeah,
syndrome, the thing about Down syndrome is that Down syndrome is even chromosomal.
yeah, that's what I'm still trying
It's,
to
it's,
say. Yeah. So
it's
because in science we actually know, oh, this is the problem due to chromosomal problems, but others see it as, oh, there might be something wrong with that family, maybe they may be doing something evil. That's why their child has down. This is what I mean.
yes, or
So
someone use the child to do some juju and
exactly,
money ritual, and that's why I'm telling you we can't overemphasize the need for more awareness.
yeah,
We cannot. I had a mother call me. Okay, so she's part of our beneficiaries. The son is autistic and part of our beneficiaries in our scholarship scheme.
yeah,
So she called me and told me that something happened that brought tears to her eyes, and that she was at a bus stop and there was this mother and a 16-year-old boy that were waiting for a bus. So after a while, the boy, of course, has tonic-clonic seizures, that's epilepsy. So the boy fell and started fitting,
yeah.
and the boy is 16. A 16-year-old boy is almost like a grown man, and it was just the mother trying to hold him. So he fell, the mother fell trying to hold him. Mother was trying to, nobody came to help this woman.
That's not
She
funny.
said she was the only one that came to help her because she knew what that woman was going through. Everybody gave them a very good distance because everybody felt spit of the guy can contaminate them and probably transfer the disease. Do you understand?
Yeah,
Others might think that an evil spirit thing, so don't touch him. So we have a long way to go in changing the mindset of people here
yeah,
in Africa. It's a big thing.
yeah. But do you think? I'm just curious now. Something just came to my head, and I'm asking myself some question. Do you think it's an education thing or mindset thing? Because, for example, you see somebody who just collapsed or someone, and the person needs what's it called again? What's the word? I'm trying to remember what it's called again. Um,
Mm.
the compressions and breathings. What's it called again?
CPR.
CPR. Yeah. And you see, no, everybody's just there shouting, "Hey!" Nobody's trying to help, right? So,
Yeah,
do you think
yeah.
it's linked to lack of education or the awareness, or do you think it's the
I'm
mindset
not
that,
talking
oh, I don't want
about
mindset, I don't want to get involved, though?
I'm not talking about formal education.
Yeah,
Yeah, because there are professors that are illiterate. I'm not talking about formal education. I'm talking about being aware, awareness. I'm talking about enlightenment,
yeah,
knowing. That's what they call the knowing. People are not aware down here, and I'm even sorry to say they don't even want to know, because ignorance is not an excuse. You should have to find if something is an anomaly or something you're bewildered by something, you should read about it and know about it. We don't care about that in Africa. So when I say awareness and enlightenment, I mean like public enlightenment
Yeah.
from groups like mine, from pressure groups, from churches, even before you can get to churches, the NGOs actually need to, go around churches, schools, because the little we can do, it takes money, it takes funding to really push an agenda,
Yeah.
which is why we are doing the little we can with the media, with the podcast, little changes, and with the people who will come around. For example, the lady that called me, she learned all those things being on our support group network. So she said she saw that and she knew that she had to help this woman. While others were running away, she was aware.
Yeah.
And then she helped. So it's not a matter of education, it's a matter of mindset change. And for us to change paradigms, it's a long-term thing. Because it's when you notice the paradigms, then you try to reprogram your mind so that you can do better.
Yeah.
So it's a journey. It's not really like something that you just with the snap of your fingers you get it done. No, it's a journey.
Yeah.
We need to teach people to become aware that these are medical conditions and that these people and their families, they need care, they need support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm going to take you back a little bit to. I know you mentioned enlightenment, but now, if we're going to talk about education, all right, in the formal settings, and how your presentation you gave to the children. So if we say we are going to develop or create curriculum for children with special needs, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
because we're trying as much as possible to make sure that because inclusion is important to make sure that they get the right education. How
mm.
can we actually create this curriculum? Who and who should be the stakeholders that are supposed to come together to create this curriculum?
Okay, so everyone is a stakeholder,
Yeah.
but I'll get to that first. There's this research we carried out in 2021. I guess we did a lot in 2021, thinking about it now. So in 2021, I was I wasn't part of it. I just stumbled into a very important webinar.
Okay.
So it was Gemini, it's an American company. They had this webinar. They were trying to showcase their product, which was a kind of video modeling, video that's using videos to teach children. However, theirs, they called it discrete video modeling, which means they pick out a task and remove every other distraction so that kids with special needs, especially autistic kids that struggle with communication,
Yeah.
they can learn. Okay. With regular videos, for example, Barney and friends, they are playing, they are gisting, they are dancing, they are running, colors everywhere, different scenarios, trying to teach one moral or one task. Now, it's not the same thing with teaching children with autism or other kinds of knowledge because they will get it's a lot for them to unpack. So they don't learn that way. So, but when you remove all the distractions, and for example, how did I teach my son how to button his shirt? I tried teaching him, showing him on himself, but it didn't work out. But I'll get back to that. So I now saw this webinar. I partook of the webinar and I reached out to them and I said, okay, since you guys said you're growing this thing and I'm in Africa, I'm in Nigeria, and I have this group of kids. Can I try it out with them? Can I get free subscription and try it out with them? They said, oh, that was fine. So they gave me. So I went to a therapeutic daycare center. I took out 5 weeks and 1 hour every day for 5 weeks,
Yeah.
5 days a week. So I I of course segregated them according to severe, mild, depending on the assessment, because there was a pre-assessment, it was a quasi-experimental research. So based on the assessment, we categorized them. We showed them the videos of what we wanted them to learn for that period of time. And by the end of it, their IQs increased, every single one of them, although not at the same pace. Some were higher than others, but every single one of them had increase in IQ, which means that they formed new neural pathways, which means that they learned something, even though it was not obvious because it was just 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Check my point. So what am I trying to get? What I'm saying is that video modeling is one of the best ways to teach children with special needs. Now let's get to curriculum.
Yeah.
After that, I sat with my team and we spoke and we said, look, uh, most of the limitations we got from the video modeling, number one, the American accent. Uh, the children weren't so familiar with the American accent. I believe it was a limitation. Secondly, the models, they were grown models, and I've read that children learn more when it's the model is usually their age mate. They learn more. And I'll tell you another story, another success story on that one. Remind me, so I don't forget. And then thirdly, there was another one. Yes, they are songs. Kids couldn't relate to their songs. Itsy Bitsy Spider, this, yeah, all those Mary, all those the kids couldn't, and the settings too. The kids couldn't relate well, and the cursive writings because we already taught them how to write. You understand? So when you now start using cursive to write, so there were some of the limitations. I said, can we get, even if it's a library of videos of 20, 20 videos that will, teach life skills. So we're working on it. We've drafted a proposal. We're looking for funding. However, I got a team. We have an occupational therapist. We have a clinical psychologist. We have a special educators actually. Then we have me representing the parents, and we're bringing in other parents too with special needs.
Yeah.
Now, and then the video guys, the IT guys. Now, our job is to first do a needs assessment. We're going to say, okay, what would I get? Maybe kids from 1 year, special needs kids from 1 year to 5 years, 1 year to 10 years. What are the skills they need? We will say, okay, button shirt, ties, being able to say good morning, being able to clean after themselves, potty training, blah, 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 what have you. So when we now gather it together, we now sit down and script all of them and script them into videos that our video editors will now shoot with models who are their age mates. I hope you're still with me on
Yeah.
this journey.
Yeah.
Good. We'll script it, then the video editor will bring it to life. Short 2 to 3 minute videos each, and then we'll put it on a website, which is a library now. So the curriculum will depend on number one, the age of the target audience, children with special needs. It will depend on do you want to teach them life skills or communication skills? What exactly are the objectives? What are the goals you want to achieve at the end of this? For us, what we're trying to do is to teach them life skills because it's in line with our objective, which is what? To make them independent and productive. So we want to teach them first life skills. We are hopeful that the schools are teaching them other
Yeah.
things, but we want to teach them life skills, how to clean after themselves, brush their teeth, and do one or two things. And when we package this, of course, our funders are also stakeholders when we eventually get funders. And when we're done with this, that's where the government comes in because we're going to showcase it to the government and say, hey, this is what we have come up with. I know we can sell it to private institutions, but we need it also to go into government
Yeah, I agree.
institutions. So the government also comes in as a stakeholder. So it's all encompassing. It's the parents, it's the professionals, it's the clinical psychologists, it's the government, the private
The
schools.
parents
It's
as
just,
well. Yeah.
yes, parents,
Yeah.
definitely. So those are the things that need to come together so that we can get a robust curriculum. In terms of maybe school curricula, we'll have to consult a special educator to be able to get and there's something called IEPs.
Yeah.
These guys, they learn like I told you, their IQs they improved when we worked on them, but at different levels. So just the way we have, okay, if you come into primary five, they have one curriculum. Primary four, they have one curriculum that everybody goes through. It's not the same thing with these kids, which is why in America they have what is called individualized educational plan. You must evaluate the child and say, this is where this child is. Therefore, I'm placing this child on this level. So they don't have a one size fits all curriculum.
Yeah.
So you have to assess them first and say, okay, I'm placing you here. You need to go through this or that.
Yeah.
So that's it for them in terms of curriculum.
Yeah. But what about the teachers? I know we talked about everybody all hands on deck to actually create this, but currently, do you think the teachers are aware of the special needs of these children? Like, do you think they have like some of the skills required to actually teach them at this point?
Okay, so simple answer to it is no.
Okay.
But the private sector is doing marvelously well, but it's not on a large scale because there's just so much one man can do. So government needs to do more to get more teachers trained in special education. And the reason why they really don't go into these things is that I doubt if they'll find employment if someone comes out and says, I have a degree in special education. Number one is that private institutions might not be able to afford you.
Yeah.
Secondly, public institutions may not be able to hire you because they don't even know what you're talking about. Do you understand? Because most of these kids are out of school, and those that are in school are those who their parents are out of school, they're in private schools.
Okay.
So you see the disconnect
Yeah.
there. And our teacher training, whatever process, really does not have robust, um, what's the word now? Robust training for special educators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, what do you think are some of the challenges? Sorry, some of the interventions to this exclusion, since some of these children are out of school, they're excluded from actually getting into education. What do you think are some of the interventions that we can actually use to tackle this exclusion?
So we did a root cause analysis in 2022 uh, to find out what are the most basic cause of exclusion, and one of it is poverty.
Is what?
Poverty.
Okay.
Most parents can't afford to send these kids to school because they have siblings and they rather strive to send those ones who are, in quotes, normal to school rather than waste it on the kids, which is why Seizure Support Foundation started our flagship program called um, Seizure Disorders and Learning Disability Project. It's a special education package, you know. So what we do is that every term we select 5 to 10 special needs kids who are already out of school. So we have an arrangement with the therapeutic daycare center. So we'll call them up and say, okay, some of your students have stopped coming to school. Your parents can't afford it. Can you give us their list, and we'll reach out to them and we try and we pay for their tuition. But we do this based off of available resources because it's not really hard a major fund that come in to start funding these scholarships. And we also have someone in Port Harcourt that we're already paying for too.
Hmm.
But beyond that, there's some, I don't even know whether it's the right platform to say this, but then, hey, it doesn't matter. So we want to go beyond that because our mandate is to support not just the kids, but their families as well. So the way we want to tackle this poverty thing is to see how we can start a microfinance. I'll tell you a story. One of the parents, in the last scholarship, uh, I asked them to come by 10 a.m. to collect their checks for their
Yeah.
kids. And she didn't come until like midday. Like I was like, but you're coming to collect some sort of a free money or something like that. And yeah. But when she came and she told me her story, I knew people were going through hell. She said she had to borrow. She didn't have money to transport herself from where she was living to where I asked her to come. And if you saw her, you would see how frantic she
Yeah.
was. And she was almost thinking that she had already lost, because it was like 2 hours or more late. So that is how bad it is. So we are working on, my team and I, how we can start a microfinance scheme. We're still working it out, trying to see how we can divide parents up because they are growing. A number of beneficiaries are growing. There's a long list, but we don't have so much resources. So if we can find a way to, support the family so that in turn they will support the kids. That's actually what we're working on. So we're trying to see how we can tackle the issue of poverty because it's not just enough to pay for the school fees. Till when, man?
Yeah. Yeah.
Till when? So we
Yeah,
are
but at least
hopeful
if they
that
support the family, they should be able to come up with the school fees.
absolutely, which is why we're working on the microfinance thing Seriously, we are still at the ideation stage. We just feel it's something that we need to start working on.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like you've done a lot of work with your team at Seizure Support Foundation. So could you tell us more about this foundation then?
Okay, so it all started in 2013 after my son was diagnosed with infantile spasm. I was much younger, and I was a young mom. I was running my PhD. In fact, my hands were filled. And with his diagnosis, what it entailed was constant hospital visits, out of pocket spendings for his medication. It was just a lot for me.
Okay.
So, and I knew that support groups, were a thing. So the doctor that was his doctor, I started asking around, is there any support group that I can join, maybe to get some respite, some support of some kind, mothers coming together to say, this is what we are going through. The first person might say, okay, I've gone through this. This is what I did. At the point, my son wasn't sleeping at night. I wasn't getting much sleep. So I asked around, and there was none. So the doctor was like, if this came to your mind, why don't you just start a support group? I don't know if I've told you this, but I actually started out as a support group, which did not work.
Mm.
We had to strategize to what we have on ground now because parents were not forthcoming. So I said I can't handle doing any other thing. I have my PhD and stuff. But as fate would have it, when something is like fire shut up in your bones, you still have to find a way to express it. So I did. So in 2013, I started taking doctors and experts to the radio to talk about this thing, do awareness. So that's how we started.
Okay.
Up until 2016, when I had to register the company as a full-blown non-governmental
Organization.
organization.
Yeah.
So that is how Civil Support Foundation came about. And then there's this passage of scripture that also inspired me where Jesus healed an epileptic. So if you look at our logo, you see against the globe, there's this other, there's there are two characters just over the globe representing the whole world. One is bigger than the other. The bigger one stretched out his hand, pull up the smaller one, which was a type of Jesus lifting up the child, healing the epileptic child. So that is our mandate, to go out and support and lift up families and um, persons with special needs. So that's a little bit of an overview of what the Support Foundation is all about.
Mm. So something that actually, so this started as just your doctor giving you an idea of what to do from now. It's got
Yeah,
into
yeah, and he's late.
wow.
And he's late.
Oh wow. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, that's sad. But
God rest his soul.
yeah. But since you've been working in this niche now, what are the challenges you faced so far so good? Because I know it's a lot, and since it's not a thing for Africans to talk about this, I'm guessing you've faced a lot of challenges.
Indeed. In fact, someone told me that this is an uncharted territory.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people working with women organizations, children, poverty alleviation. But in this niche, we find. Okay, so basically, I think our major challenge will be the mindset of people.
Mm.
Yeah, because we tried before, but up until now, it's still an issue. People don't understand that there's power in numbers,
Yeah.
and they don't understand what it means to advocate for a child. And I keep saying, if government does not give you anything on a platter,
Yeah.
you've got to mount pressure. Even in America, I told you of this camp.
Yeah.
It was my friend, my American friend, Colette, that sent me the link to that document.
Yeah.
These were talking about the special needs that were put in a camp, in a boot camp, and how a revolution started with them. Parents need to come. We always point at government, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Do we even know who our legislators
Mm.
are? Do you even know the committee in charge of health or education? And if it's just me, I've tried it, it didn't work. What they asked me was, how much do I have? Because I wanted to, yes, to see how we can domesticate the national
Yeah.
policy so that public schools can start taking these kids, even if it's one special education teacher, make una employ. But they asked me, how much do I have? Now look at me now. If I had money, it's not to pay for school fees. And I'll carry it and go and give lawmakers.
Yeah.
So, so it's our primary issue. And guess what? It was later, after they left, that somebody told me that one of those guys, the child has special needs.
Yeah.
Oh. Uh-huh. So it's a mindset. It's a big issue. Then that's one. And then to tell you that funding is also a challenge. Of course, everybody knows funding is a challenge. But for me personally, I don't look at funding if I want to do something. I can at least put it down on paper. I can at least tell people about it before we now start looking for funding. Because if you place your thoughts on funding first, you will not do anything. So yeah, funding is a challenge. Mindset is a challenge also. So those are the two basic things. You can't get volunteers down here. It's still down to the mindset thing. They will ask you how
How
much
much
will
did you
you pay. All of
pay?
that they know. How much can you pay
Yeah.
them? So
But,
I think it's funding. I think it's mindset
but
that cuts
but
across.
but when you talk about funding, I know universal basic education has a lot of budget every year for education for children, right? Is
Yeah.
there any
Yeah.
way have you explored that route to actually reach out to universal basic education, because I know they do a lot of stuff with Spain, UNICEF, and the rest of them to for
Well, I've approached
yeah
UNICEF. These things there. Sorry, I don't know if I should say it here, but these things are who know who kind of
yeah
arrangement. Do you understand? I've approached UNICEF and I said, guys, this is what I'm doing in
yeah
Enugu here. They have their country office or whatever in
yes
Enugu. And they told me point blank that what I'm doing is not a matter of life and death for the child. That they see things that have to do with life and death for the child, like immunization, food, treating diseases, infectious
yeah
diseases, things that have to do with life and health. So if it's education and any special needs that they don't cover it, but I know that I don't know. Let me just leave it at that. But I've tried. But we're still reaching out to funders. For example, the video library I told you about is something that we have completed the proposal and we're sending it out. So if you have any potential funder that you feel matches our needs, please feel free to send us their information so we can send our proposal across to them.
yeah. That's actually surprising coming from them, because I know UNICEF, they are so keen on they have this convention on the rights of the child where they say that every child has the right to education. I think it's article 28 and 29. I think I've read that before. So
So what they say and what they do are two different
yeah, so
things.
that's why I'm surprised, because if you say every child deserves quality education and has the right to education, I think they are the right partners to come on board for this to actually take effect, like in terms of what they're doing.
There
Yeah,
are partners, there are partners on
yeah,
paper. Most of the things these guys do are very transactional. They look at it from a transactional point of view. What's in it for
yeah,
them? I just think just we will need to adopt a different strategy if we have to get their
yeah,
attention. But I don't think we've gotten the right partners to help us with
yeah.
that yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair, fair. But anyway, so because of time, I'm going to ask you one last question, because you've done tremendous work on this so far, so good. But if
Thank
you
you.
if you assuming you have the funding, all right, let's say
Mm,
in the next few months you get the funding from the government and from universal basic education and UNICEF. They all come on as collaborators, all right, and partners, and say,
mhm.
now since you have been leading this charge, we want you to be the person to help change the policy in Nigerian healthcare and education system for these children. How would you ensure
Mm.
that the medical and educational needs of these children with special needs are met?
It's not even an issue because their policies, their health and education policies, already developed. Yes, they are outdated, but they are there. And you'll be shocked. I think the last time that this national policy on special needs education was updated was in 2015. Yet, how many states have domesticated it? So it's about enforcing the policy that is already on. We don't need new policies in Nigeria. We don't need new policies in health. We don't need new policies in education. It's to ensure that the ones that are there are domesticated and that they are
Yeah.
implemented. So that's key for me. If I'm in the position, is to ensure that all states adopt these things and ensure that every public primary, secondary school has a special educator there. Implement it. Implement inclusive education in our education system and not just on paper. On ground, make sure it's on ground. Improve the structure and the curriculum of the teacher training um, process in
Yeah.
Nigeria. Make it more robust,
Yeah.
right? In terms of health, I know that our insurance scheme in Nigeria, for lack of a better word, is in a sorry state. But if there's any way that we can make insurance accommodate some of the basic anticonvulsants and drugs that these kids do, that will go a long way in helping parents because most parents can't access healthcare because of the cost. It sounds too expensive. People pay from out of pocket, especially now that things are just,
Yeah.
skyrocketing. So it's health and it's education. We have policies, implement those policies for
Yeah.
crying out loud and accommodate more of these drugs in the basic and the what is it called in the national insurance scheme. So that will go
Yeah.
a long way.
Mm. Okay. So you're adamant that the policies are not the problem. It's all about implementation.
It's implementing them and ensuring punitive measures are dished out to
Yeah, but
people who
how do you
flaunt
do
it.
that? That's that.
There are no consequences. There are no consequences in
Yeah.
this country. Anybody can come and do what
And
they
get away
like
with it.
and
Yeah.
get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the things, the
Yeah.
challenges.
Anyway, well, I want to commend you on the job you've done so far. Like, it's not easy. I know, like, doing something that a lot of people actually see as stigmatized is actually hard because a lot of people even struggle to
Yeah.
talk about these things in Nigeria. So I can imagine how hard it's been for you, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but
Thank you so much.
yeah, and hopefully, as you keep growing, in the work you do in the foundation, hopefully these guys you mentioned, even if it's British Council, UNICEF, ESPN, and the rest of them will come on board as a
Yeah.
partner with you and actually drive this change for these special needs, children with special needs.
We're waiting, man. These kids are
Yeah,
waiting.
hopefully we'll get to that. All right, but that's all the time we have for
Definitely.
this week, Dr. Chigi. Thank you so much for your time on the show.
Thank you, Arinze. Thank you for having me.
I
Always a
hope you had
pleasure
fun.
talking to you. And
Thank
good
you so
luck with your
much. I hope you had fun
podcast.
though.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
didn't even
we'll
want
do
it
this
to
again then.
end.
All right,
Definitely.
cheers.
I'm here.